The Frame Center Podcast.
Okay, so welcome to the Frame Center Podcast. Today, I'm excited. We got Amber Waterhouse in. We're doing a little morning podcast today because Amber's got the store over in Hingham, Waterhouse. It's a nice antique store. It was was it November? Me and Elizabeth
Yeah.
I took the field trip over there.
Probably in the fall.
Yeah. So she's got that. Amber's also a pretty well-known painter over in Hingham, right? I think you have some image.
I have a store, so they have to know me.
Yeah. I think you have some pretty recognizable images. I think we got one out front.
Yeah.
I feel like I see that quite a bit. I remember the rainbow fleet looking one.
Yes.
Also another popular piece.
You framed a few of those.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, as I was looking through your gallery the other day on there, just to see, it was one of the ones I wrote down as ones I liked. The series of Rainbow Fleet.
I've probably painted that scene, not in exactly the same, certainly, but variations like of that scene, probably 50 plus times.
Yeah, there are a few of them on there, but they look great.
It's a nice. My friend that's in a band calls it my Sweet Home Alabama. Like you don't want to play it, but everyone wants to hear it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like painting it. It's a great scene, but yeah, it's my Sweet Home Alabama.
Nice.
So,
Yes. Well, everyone's got to have that. I mean, you're better off having that than not, right?
Yes.
You can always fall back to it.
Absolutely.
Me and Amber sat on the board together at North River. I'm trying to remember how long ago that was. I feel like
it was I think at least 10 years ago. Yeah.
Did we come on the board at the same time there?
No, you were on before me. I was not on very long.
No.
I wasn't on very long.
Maybe we exited at the same time.
Maybe. I think there was a bit of exiting that happened simultaneously.
Yeah.
So
I think that maybe did you exit when you opened the store?
It came about right about the same time because a little bit before I stayed on the arts committee because I love doing that and that was fun. And I stayed involved in the November sale because I love doing that. But I went off, I was probably on the board 2 years, not very long. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I moved to Hingham. I used to live across the street from it. And then I moved to Hingham and not that it's that far away because it really isn't, but there was a whole perfect storm of things that,
Well, the responsibility of a storefront too, kind of.
Yes, it was taking up more of my time than I had before, certainly.
Yeah. I had a good run there too, and same type of thing. Kids, and then it was then store, and then
But you're still so generous too, and so supportive of all the programming and things they do, from out of the box to student shows to like all the shows that they have. Yeah, this is just such a go-to for all the artists I know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what
do their framing here.
Well, I think that we want to reach, artists. We want to reach everybody, and I think that even with the podcast too, it's nice, a good way nice outlet to get things out to people, to make them more familiar with artists and like see some of the qualities of artists behind the painting. So somebody's seen that piece of yours, and then they hear the voice and the personality behind it.
Yeah.
I think that's a selling point, and at your place at Waterhouse, you guys sell some art, right? And is it mainly your stuff or is it, there's a couple, I know there's a couple, like Margaret and.
So I started the store kind of unintentionally. I was looking for like my next career and I wanted to do something I'd been painting for quite a while at that point and I was selling my work and I knew, I kind of had like some Hingham and the South Shore community is an engaged community in buying art. And I knew kind of the price point and the scenes and all of that. And this antique store a friend told me about this antique store that I had recently discovered in Hingham Square and that this woman was going to close and sell her business. So I talked to her about it. I thought, okay, this is kind of like, I could use this as a venue to sell my work, but I'm not prolific enough. And so I could have the people who I paint with, whose work I love, and I know their work and their history, and it's easy for me to sell. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the antiques come in because I just didn't want to have a gallery. I'm not a gallery owner. I don't like calling it a gallery. I'm not like offended if you call it, but I just didn't want that sort of
stigma.
Traditional, sometimes can be stuffy atmosphere or intimidating atmosphere. If you go in and you're surrounded by all these paintings with price tags and the gallery owner. And depending on who the gallery owner is, you could have a great time. But I just didn't want to be intimidating. I think people that buy art in my store, for a lot of them, it's their first painting, that their first piece of real artwork that they're buying. And the retails are very inclusive to a lot of people. They're from anywhere from $300 or less to $2,000. So they're in that range where most people can afford a piece of real art. So the antiques sort of make the environment a little more interesting.
Yeah.
And then I add decor in there too. So, you could be coming in like looking for a little table that you need for a lamp on it and you go out with a painting. Or you go in looking for a painting and you're like, you go out with
a lot of interesting stuff in there.
10 plates or something. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. So I like it because it's a great place to discover things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the mantra of.
Yeah, that whole area I think is really nice. I imagine you probably have a lot of people that kind of walk in, walk out just as they're like strolling through a lot of the
Absolutely.
stores down
It's
there.
an awesome location. I think Hingham Square, not comparing it to any other town because I can't because I've never had a shop in any other town, but it's really, I've been there almost 9 years and it's unbelievable what's happened. I think there's so much to do there now. There were always clothing stores and there were always home furnishing stores, but there's quite a few home furnishing stores now. So it's really, and quite a few clothing stores now. So it makes sense to shop there. It's like a destination. You can go into 6 different clothing stores. You can go into as many home furnishing stores. And I sell a lot to the trade, too, to the design trade. And so it makes sense for them to bring a client because there's a lot of things they can look at,
Yeah, where they want to model their...
Yeah, so if they don't find it at one store, they can find it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, and then with art, it's important to see it in person before you make the decision, sort of thing. I do a lot of that at the store where people, they're trying to decide between a painting or they just don't know if it's going to fit in their space or look good in their space or whatever. But I always let them take it home and try it because everything looks different in your own environment.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And the other artists that you show down there, is it?
Yeah, so there's quite a few. And I've had more at some points. And now I've kind of had this solid core group that is the right number of artists. So Margaret McWethy, whom I've studied with for, 15 years now. I'm her student. And it's primarily students of Margaret's, that have come. We've really become good friends. So Christina Eckerson, who also lives in Hingham. So does Margaret. Erin Donnellan, who lives in Milton. I have Joanne Chittick, who lives in Cohasset. I know she's a regular here all the time. And Jody Regan, I have had over the years, before she started doing the drawings, I had some of her paintings, and then I have some of her drawings. Yep. I know you had her on last. That was really great. And her show is so great. That's at...
I got 2 of her pieces at that show.
I heard that on the podcast.
I was super excited.
Yeah. Awesome show. And let's see. So then I have this guy, Chris Coyne, who lives in Rockport, Mass., but he grew up in Hingham. He's really good. And in a different style. So he's, still traditional and an impressionist, but more North Shore or Cape Ann versus like Cape Cod. There's a different, we paint a little more high key. They paint a little more like mid key. So there's a little variety there. I have Bonnie Hobbs, whom I was in Margaret's class too. I met her there and then I bought a bunch of things from her when she was selling a house. And I said, hey, you want to sell some art at my shop? And I've sold a lot of her art. And then Diane Scott, whose work I love, she used to show I met her in Margaret's class. And I met her first at North River Arts because I bought one of her paintings from the festival show that is still, I own a lot of artwork. And it's still one of my most favorite paintings. So she's in New Hampshire, and then Rita Brace, who lives in Oklahoma now, but she'll send me painting. And then we mix. I joined forces with my friend Jen Schwartz, who has been a longtime antiques dealer, and she works in the shop and she sells her antiques in the shop, but she has a fabulous eye and knowledge of art, and we buy together a lot of vintage art too. Yep. So yeah, it's just a little like
that's fun too, right? Because you can,
it's so fun. It's so much easier buying someone else's work than painting your own.
That also seems like a fun thing to do too. Like to buy, you can go get out, look for stuff you like.
Absolutely.
If you have a change of heart, you can move it or move some stuff around.
Yes.
That's
absolutely
like the fun thing to do. Go looking.
Yeah, as your tastes change or develop or whatever. Yeah, it is nice to have an outlet to be able to sell some things, and or if you have to downsize, which I did recently, I had a little overflow, so some pieces ended up in the shop. But Yeah.
So you have a lot of art yourself. So
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love buying art.
Yeah. Same here.
It's so fun.
Yeah. And do you have just from all over, or is there like a certain style that you're?
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely paint traditionally, and I definitely like more traditional styles, but not exclusively. I like people that buy art from me. They need to have some connection with it. So that's kind of how I buy art, whether the subject connects me, but usually it's the artist.
Yep.
Or a combination of the both.
Yeah.
So I've been going up to Maine with a couple fellow artists, and
is it Monhegan or?
No, not Monhegan. We go to. I know. I've never been to Monhegan.
I keep hearing about it.
Oh
Jody,
God, it's like Jody's been going forever, but it's like it's artist mecca of Maine. You know, but we go to, in Arcadia too. But we go to Camden, Mid-Coast Maine. There's a ton to paint there.
Yeah.
I mean, the three of us that go, we all like painting water. So the harbors are different. And for years, I would go to Gloucester for a week in the summer to take this guy's workshop, David Curtis. And he grew up there and, just knew all the spots. So, it's just different for variety of like landscape. And, they have different boats. The water is a different color, blah, blah, blah. But the art, I digress. So the art, there's a few people like in Maine that I'm like really grooving on that I can't really afford their work anymore, but I have a couple of their paintings. David Graham Baker, I have one of his paintings and I have a couple of his drawings that you framed and I have another one. Now I'm at the drawing phase. I can only afford those, but
I mean, the drawings are great too. I think like Jody's too. Like I think that like those sketches, you see things that are like studies. Surely you can add that framing element into it.
Yes.
And it really has like a nice look to it, especially if you connect with it. And and sometimes can be more affordable,
Yeah. So, and we have taken a couple classes with Colin Page, who has a gallery in Camden. And when we first started going up there, he didn't have his gallery yet, but it's so exciting to see. And we love his work and his style. So he curates these shows and it's so fun to see these other contemporary artists that he chooses. So I hope in my little store that, that a similar experience can happen where someone comes in and I love seeing it. It's absolutely the most favorite part of my job when someone comes in and connects with a painting. You know, when you see one you like, you said, you're talked about your experience at Jody's show a few weeks ago and just like, you might come in wanting like, oh, I want a big painting to go over my fireplace, but then you end up with this little tiny jewel of a painting or something that you connected with. So that's definitely. When I was at Jody's thing, I was like, I'm getting the cities, and there wasn't one that struck me, and I'm sure I'll end up with one of her cityscape drawings at some point. She's done a few.
The street going, like nearing like 6 years. I'm probably up to like 2000. I'm sure that there's probably one out there that I'll end up with, but North River, that scene for a show I hung, it was like a perfect fit for me, and I was like, how can I not buy this? But I mean, people just connect with pieces, and it is fun to see, and it's fun to get people involved in buying art, And it's fun to have that, having real original art in your home feels different. It just does. It brings a different vibe to your room or home or whatever. It's it can be a reflection of you or something, or somewhere you've been, or it's handmade by a human. So it has that quality to it too. And there's not always there's not another one out there, right? I mean, there's sometimes there's something similar. Like if there's someone's,
there are more of these red dinghies out there though. That's a giclée print, which I own a couple of giclée prints of artists that I can't afford, but I love their work. Yeah. So, and there aren't a million. I wish there were a million of Sunken Ship out there, but there aren't. So photographs are prints. You can make multiples of photographs, but having like a Mike Sleeper at your home, it has that. Yeah. It's his skill of rendering something so beautifully. I mean, his photographs. What's that? I do. I do. It took me like years to pick one because I wanted a million and they're big.
Yeah.
He doesn't do tiny.
Yeah. So I bought one that is it has a name, but it's at the end of Martin's Lane, it's a little cove at the end of Martin's Lane in Hingham that right before, as you enter World's End. Yeah. And there's a little dinghy that's parked there all the time. And so it's a foggy morning with a reflection of the land, the Martin's Lane side of the land into that little cove. And there's Mike likes to point out, there's a little tiny fox.
Yeah.
And I remember that Fox because when I would paint in World's End, I don't know if he's still there, but I'd paint in World's End, which is I could go there on my own because it's safe and, and there's unlimited amount of things to paint there. And that Fox was like hanging around. It was kind of scary. Yeah. I had like a little bag of nuts with me and I'm like, oh my God, what's he going to do? Yeah. I mean, I'm bigger than he is, but his teeth are sharper and he can certainly run faster than I can. I don't know. But he came kind of close and then there were a lot of sightings of this Fox. I don't know if he's still there, but it's in the photograph that I have.
You recognize him from that encounter?
Yes.
That's famous Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike's stuff's great. I have two of his. I have the canoe, and I love the canoe. I have the boat from out in Nantucket. I forget the name of the print, but it's like Fred Rogers.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Which hung up here for a long time, but
everyone
with the intention of bringing it home.
Yeah,
his stuff's great. Some of his stuff I feel like I've gotten tired of just because I've framed them so many times, and I'm like, all right, well, these ones are a little, the canoe is getting
only
there.
Framed like 100 times.
It works. My wife loves it, and it works perfect in my house where we have it.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. No, his stuff is great.
A lot of my artwork is from local people that paint out of North River Arts or South Shore Art Center, or I've bought at South Street Gallery, which is now closed. There's a really great amount of talented,
we're pretty well saturated in this area.
Artists on the South Shore
in various types too.
South Shore, they did a lot of like the older pieces too, didn't they? Was that one of their kind of niches over there?
South Shore Art Center?
No, South Street Gallery before they closed. Did they have like old like?
He was Jack Hobbs was a collector, a painter, and a collector as well, and so he would have artists like Charles Mavali, who has since passed away, but he had Mavali there and his wife Dale Radcliffe, and he would get people from all over. And Kate was good at putting those things together, really good at putting those things together. So, it was a little jewel. You could just go over there and see some really great stuff in your neighborhood. Yeah, that included local art, but always of a really nice high caliber. Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, I got one painting from them that me and my wife had been in there and looking at it, and I was drawn to. Can't remember the artist, but it had gone back and picked it up for me because she knew I liked it.
But, that's nice. That is fun too. I have couples come in and buy work together. That's really I have a great customer that buys paintings whenever a big event happens in her life. And it has nothing to do with the event, but it sort of commemorates that event. When she looks at the painting, she gets to enjoy the painting, and she also, reminds her of the wedding or
that's a cool tactic. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people buy art when they're on vacation. Yes, trips. I think Jody touched on that.
Yes.
One, I think people are in vacation mode, right? So they're spending
anyway.
They're spending a little bit more freely,
and you want to take a little piece of that trip home with you, and
you remember the spot, you remember the trip. That's fun. I think, we're branching into bringing some artwork upstairs. Dina's been doing a great job. And that's fun, too, to give people an opportunity to show work up there, too. And kind of have a little bit of an influence of...
It's a natural... That space is so attractive up here.
Yeah, it's come together.
Separating the two out from dedicated retail to dedicated gallery has made a big difference from how everything is present.
That was always my original concept for my store, like 30 years ago. Yeah. It's like an upstairs, downstairs thing. Like I would have like the gallery on the top floor and then like retail and more affordable things on the first floor. But now it's jammed into all of it into a little space.
You probably use more space there, right?
Years of living in Beacon Hill. I know I have like 500 square feet. I am so good at packing like so much stuff in there.
Do you store a lot of stuff at home too? Or
no, now I really can't. No, I really try to
separate.
I could really I've had like storage units over the years and it's just an expense I really don't want to have.
It is expensive,
and I try to turn it in real time. So my prices are really good. Yeah. So antiques are very affordable. They're a great way to add history and personality and warmth to your room, and they go great with artwork. Yeah.
I think that just being over in your space, like I feel like the group of artists you have, like I think that the work lends itself to the antiques. It all seems to, there's a lot of stuff there, but it all kind of, jives together. Now the antiques, when you just always had a thing for antiques, or you said I know your mother's been.
My mom was an antique dealer for a while, but like I am, like on the decor side of antiques. I mean, I studied history and art history in school, so I've always been interested in history, but I kind of grew up with them, so I like the different styles and different periods, and
blending the styles too. Like even having like a small piece, like an antique, like put it into like a contemporary room.
Absolutely, like there's nothing. I think there's nothing like more exciting than that. Like, Renaissance revival piece. It's all beautifully carved or whatever, with a stark white piece of furniture. Looks great, and an Oriental carpet. I sell a lot of rugs.
If you wait long enough, everything turns back over.
That's right.
Too, right?
That's
right. So it's like they all like become. It comes back into fashion, right?
The 70s have been, like those color palettes and all those like
totally
design styles are back in again.
Yeah.
So it's very, very, very funny. A lot of avocado greens and oranges.
Yep.
And,
the millennials love the 70s color, which is so funny. Being a kid in the 70s, I don't really love those colors. That grew up with an orange or dark orange carpet. I always have an aversion to that color, but
I have an orange and yellow shag carpet in my house with dark brown paneling walls and that like yellow potato chip chair. I remember that growing up as a child.
You don't want to bring that back?
The chair was actually quite comfortable. I don't mind bringing the chair back. Maybe in a different color.
If you could get your hands on that chair,
I know.
I might be able to sell it for you.
If we hadn't destroyed that as children, that would have been a fortune.
Yeah. I mean, things like Jen and I do, we sell at Brimfield a couple times a year, which is just like, it's so fun. It's like a boondoggle business expense sort of thing. If I break even, I'm psyched. Jen actually makes a little money, but if I break even, I'm psyched. Yeah, so we sell one day and then we shop another day. And it's just, people talk about it being so overwhelming. It's just so fun. You will see, it's like 2 hours, it's a short drive, and you will see everything under the sun there. It's all there, like fine antiques to everything else. So people watching's good. It's a great place to buy art.
Yep.
Really great place to buy art. I bought a lot of art at Brimfield.
In that more of a reasonable price too?
Yeah. The whole gamut. I picked up a Richard Schmid a couple of years ago, which I was pretty happy about. And, like contemporary artists. I think I bought Mike Graves one time, to just fun pieces that who cares who the artist is, that you just like the piece and it has a style. I love the like 30s, 40s, 50s sort of style of painting, and there's a lot of that there. And if it just resonates, then throw it in a frame and you've got a beautiful painting for
that's fun. I got to try to get to Brimfield at some point. Does that run also the summer?
It's 3 times a year. It's always the same times. It's May, July, and September. And so Jen and I go there and we sell in May and September. July can be hot, but it can be nice sometimes too. So
you never know.
Yeah.
So you pack up a bunch of the stuff from the store, or is
and usually different things. Like that's where Jen's really into mid-century, and she does more contemporary artwork.
Yep.
And she's really good with clothing. She buys a lot of clothing. I don't know. I don't know where she finds this stuff, but she's got all kinds of stuff. And I have my usual, porcelain and Asian stuff and wicker rugs. I don't know. It's all out there. So you never know.
When you're in antiques, you kind of end up like focusing in on one.
Well, you gravitate towards certain things, or some people gravitate towards a period. I like a lot of different periods. I like a certain look, I guess. I don't know. I like the mix too. So there's a lot of different. Victorian is really out right now. I mean, it is so if you like it, buy it now, because they're like basically burning it because they can't even like sell it at auction. But there's a lot of craftsmanship at that time too. A lot of carving and turning and beautifully all bench-made pieces. So I do like a good Victorian piece every once in a while, especially bamboo. I'm a sucker for anything French. I love like Louis the 15th, 16th. I love that stuff. I don't know. Anything English. I am known to like English furniture. There's like a patina to it that's different than, I don't know. And continental furniture is much more affordable to buy right now, has been for years, than American. So if you like that, that's a good thing to focus in on. But
do you have a lot of people come in trying to get an education on antiques?
Yeah, a lot of people come in and know what they're looking for, know a lot about things. I learn a ton of things from customers. Yeah, and I learn about art from customers too. I mean, I've had so many great conversations. It's kind of like what you've developed here. I kind of have going a little bit in my shop too, in that it's really it's a community. It's a place in the community to be with like-minded people or people that are interested in the same things that you are. And it's so fun to have those conversations about.
People turn me on to stuff all the time here for like, they're like, oh yeah, if you like this, go to this.
Yeah, watch this.
Watch this guy. He was in this documentary about. I'm like, okay.
It's so fun. It's so fun.
Yeah, I feel like with the art, is really easy too now, especially with like algorithms, right? Like, so you start looking at somebody's stuff on Instagram, and then you start
all of a sudden
you're flooded with it.
Like you're seeing very similar things. That's a nice ad from technology.
Yes.
Do you use that like Instagram to?
I just use Instagram. I'm kind of. Instagram is like God's greatest gift to small businesses, I think, because it's right now it's free.
Yep.
And because of the algorithms, I've found so many great supportive people in the Instagram community. I find it to be a really positive community that's very supportive. And, it's a place where you can go look at beautiful things.
Yeah.
So, and it's a great way for me to let people know. I call it like just in. I always start with just in, things that come in. So they know. I have a great customer that lives in Melrose and she's been coming down for years. And it was probably the first year I was open. She was like, I come all the way from Melrose to your shop. Do you think you could put some stuff on Instagram so I would know what you have, before I come? And I'm like, oh, you look at Instagram? And she's like all the day and all the time, all day long. And I'm like, yeah, but she has a full, had at the time a very high-powered job in publishing. I'm like, she's like, oh, when I'm at the bank, when I'm here, like I'm always on Instagram. So yeah, it's a great place to kind of show what you have and talk about a little bit in a short clip of, kind of your personality, show your personality, show your style, what you're doing.
Show new inventory. Do a little walkthrough of the place.
I've done that.
How you've done change the layout or something.
Especially during oh my God. During the pandemic, it was a total lifesaver.
Yeah.
And I did do a lot of like walk through the shop sort of thing. And I obviously all of us couldn't have our shop open for a while, but I was there like you were. And so you just kind of, I think the pandemic was helpful in that it's kind of brought an awareness back to shopping local and small.
Yep.
There's only so much fun you can have on Amazon. I mean, it's definitely convenient, but having the experience and the connection with a human, having the experiential time of going in and looking at and touching objects and talking to a human is important. And if they're not, if we don't use them, then they'll potentially go away.
I've discussed this with a few people that work here. Like I'm very I don't shop online. I'm one of those guys. I like to see something before I buy it. I want to hold it. I want to see how to size it. Oh yeah, they say the dimensions. Yeah, but it doesn't always.
Oh, you can hold up a ruler, but then you get it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so small.
Exactly.
Or this is way bigger than I thought. Yeah.
There's a lot of things to seeing something in person rather than.
I agree.
Same thing goes for art. You can't just.
Art's tricky. I mean, and I always question that with like the online judging, like of art.
Yeah.
I think with like photography, it's that I mean, you're looking at that's a little bit easier, but still, even with photography too, and when you're just looking at an image and it's going into a show, all of a sudden you have like, all right, well, what if it was framed really poorly, or like it's not like a true representation? Same with like paintings, like even like your paintings behind us, like. Sometimes I just don't think it, I think you can get a good idea of what it looks like and you got like a starting point. Like you want to like go in and look at it more, but I don't think you could get like a true feel for some of those
backlit.
Things. Yeah.
Like I've bought paintings at auction many times that I didn't see in person.
Mm.
It was backlit. So the colors are, I mean, I don't even know how to correct color on, and I don't think most people do how to like correct color in their images to make it look like the authentic painting. And there is a dimension with artwork, even if you don't.
If you have dimension,
paint with a lot of paint, it doesn't matter.
Even if it's not dimensionalized, like 3-dimensionalized with layered paints or things like that, you lose.
Absolutely,
it becomes very flat.
It's very flat. So I mean, I think if you see the painting in person and then go buy it on the internet, that's the way to go. But
I think it's a good place for inspiration.
Yes.
I would say. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with actually buying. I wouldn't want to discourage people from making a purchase online, but I think to me it would be a good starting point. And then again, seeing it, holding it,
Yes.
It's like somebody saying like, "Oh, I know what the Mona Lisa looks like," and then actually seeing it in place in the Louvre.
Yes,
it's a little bit of a difference.
Totally different experience for sure.
Yeah.
So we got two of your paintings behind us too. What are those scenes in Hingham? Or
no. So I love to paint water, and I've just kind of I've been interested in interiors lately,
Yeah.
and then we've been working on them in Margaret's class. But for the last like probably 3 or 4 years, starting with the pandemic, I was painting interiors like a lot of people were. The one on the right is a hotel in Utica, in New York.
Okay.
I spend some time in Utica these days because both of my daughters are at the same college I stay in Utica, and they go to Hamilton College. So they're nearby. That is a restaurant in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of what I do for work too, but I like the peering in, and I like to do a lot of compositions where you're outside peering inside sort of thing. I haven't like given up on water, but I haven't been painting too many harbor scenes lately. But I love landscape.
We just had Laura Jennings in last week recording, and she has like those interior shots which are great. I don't know if you're familiar with her work.
No, I'm not.
Different style than your work, but like she has a very does a lot of interiors.
Mm-hmm. Or is it like a very like kind of lived in, like where like the covers are thrown on the bed,
love that.
And
I love
like
that.
the blankets tossed on the little windowsill bench with the book half open. They feel
there's a narrative to it too.
There's a story going on with it. It's not just
when you go to listen to your episode, hers will be right in the same neighborhood.
I got to check out her work. I'm embarrassed. I look forward to that.
Well, that's what this whole thing is about. It's just helping everybody discover a whole bunch of new people. So
you forget too sometimes. Like I'm trying to think of what Laura's had some stuff in North River. She's had stuff in numerous places. But I forget. Like I know all like.
Well, you see all of it because it all comes in here.
But certain people, I mean, there's definitely like groups and not cliques, but like like Jody paints with that, like her group of the
that she's been with a long time.
Like we had Rita Berkowitz in, and like she has like like there's a bunch of the pastel artists that work with like Donna, like people that took classes.
You have to have
together,
your people.
That person, which I think is amazing too, because like having these groups of people that paint together and just like add, just keeps the wheels turning, right? Like you get you have a group of artists that you work with, and they're inspiring to you and
supportive and you learn from them, painting with them.
It's kind of like having someone that you go to the gym with, or like having that community. It kind of inspires you to continue to do,
absolutely.
Everyone else is painting. Oh, I gotta crank something else out.
Yes, it can absolutely motivate you.
Well, I mean, that's a good segue because actually when I was on your site looking at it, I saw you did a 30-day challenge where you were doing 30 paintings.
Oh my God, that was so long ago. I have so much admiration.
Your last one was great. It's like, there's no way I'm doing 30 paintings in 30
well,
days.
I mean, you have to be somewhat realistic because if you have other things going on that day, I shouldn't have picked the compositions I picked. I should have done some things that were a little more like, because it is just the exercise of every single day, which, like Jody, unbelievable, Lisa Daria, it was a big.
Did they inspire you to try to take on this challenge?
Anyone that you were, I think like the platform that I have my website on, FASO, Fine Art Studios Online, they have a challenge all the time. It was a big thing, like maybe 10 years ago or something. And it's a really good practice if you can do it, which I
did it. Yeah. But mine's a little easier. I do abstract pours. So all I had to do was figure out color composition, size, palette, what I wanted to work with, make it all up, and then do it. My hardest thing is I'm a perfectionist. I like things to be exactly the way I want them. I see it in my head. If it's not, crumple up, start all over again. Right. I had to get away from that. So that's why I went to abstracts. I used to do landscape watercolors.
Okay.
And so to not futz with things, to not
so is that what you learned from your everyday?
Let go. Let it do its own thing. It's going to be fine, not to overcorrect and ruin
see what happens if you don't.
Exactly. It's like,
touch it again,
I know that branch doesn't supposed to go that way, but nobody else knows that, but it's going to bother the heck out of me. And it's like, so I was one of those type of, now I really love just doing the abstract pours and seeing what happens. So I do a lot of those because I have the time for them. Whereas a landscape watercolor might take me 3-4 weeks to do, depending on, what time and when I can get back to it.
Yeah.
And then where was I when I was doing the last time I was working on it?
I know. I have so much unfinished work. I get to like 90% and then I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is. Like you kind of lose interest and it's the hardest part.
Yeah. So sometimes, stepping away and then you come back to it, right? And, and you're
like, finished. It comes to you versus, Yeah.
So the good thing about
forcing
deadlines
a finish
sometimes.
is tough sometimes.
Yeah,
doing
absolutely.
something like
That's
that.
when they have the deadline. Like you have to have something done by a certain day. Right?
I need the deadline.
Yeah.
I'll admit, I definitely do. I'm always right to the last minute.
Like, yeah. So I'm drawn to that one a bit. You said that was New York.
Hotel, right?
Yeah, in the hotel.
Yeah. So Erin Dinellen, who's a friend of mine and who's a graphic designer and did all of my graphics for my store and everything.
Oh, okay.
Her son also went to Hamilton, and I'm like, where do you stay? Blah, blah, blah. So I went to school in upstate New York. So I love upstate New York. I think it's so pretty and it has its own sort of unique qualities to it and everything. And this was it had its moment in history. And this hotel was built during that moment. And it was kind of a grand, like mid-late 19th century hotel. It's now owned by the Hilton. So it looks like a Hilton inside. And that's Hilton furniture, which I've now just ruined my sale of that painting. But it has this sort of like the scale in the lobby and the restaurant, even though the furniture's really boring. I like that contrast of like kind of the scale and the fancy walls. And then this was
because that's nothing they would put in today. It wouldn't have multi-paneled windows. It would be,
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. And then the light, it was interesting. So that's usually what motivates me.
Do you get fixated on like chairs and stuff like that when you're painting interiors? Like having like the
I can get fixated on anything, whether it's like, and then I'm like down that little, and I have to like back up and get out the big brush again. I like the little brush. I have to, it's so hard. Everyone's like, oh, I want to paint loose, blah, blah, blah. But it's so hard to do. I mean, it takes like so many years to allow yourself and to acquire those skills where you can paint more freely or openly or whatever. Yeah, I like I'm a huge Hopper fan.
Yeah, so, that has the Hopper quality to it.
I love kind of that psychological.
I was looking at it, trying to get like to see. Yeah, that's it. Because he has like those interior shots.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Like
that are contemporary to him in his time. He doesn't exclude any details. He's not trying to like, make them sort of those like Walter Gay, Hingham artist, that kind of genre of like these beautiful kind of William Merritt Chase, like those beautiful lush interiors where they're showing off, where they're painting carpet and they're painting feathers and they're painting hair and glass and metal and all the different surfaces. But I'm more of a Hopper. I just saw the Hopper show that's at the Whitney a few weeks ago. Hopper Paints New York. Oh my God. It was so packed. I don't know why they made you sign up for a time slot because it seemed like it was a free-for-all in there, but so
people
worth
wouldn't believe it.
Yes, exactly. That's probably it.
Organized chaos.
Yeah, it was so worth going to. It was a fantastic show. And he's just the master. I mean, I know you see his work everywhere because, there's a poster. Everyone has a poster in their home or whatever, but which is fine. Posters are fine too, but I certainly can't afford a Hopper. So
sometimes that's your best option.
Yeah, but I love this. I saw the show. We were having a vacation in Maine once when my kids were little, and Bowdoin College, they have an awesome art museum, and they have quite a few Hoppers, and they have all these other Maine artists, and so they had the show Hopper's era of it was a Hopper show, but with a couple galleries dedicated to people painting at the same time in Maine. It was fantastic. Anyway, so Steve Martin collects Hoppers, so they're out of my out of my price range. But I do look at his work a lot.
He's an inspiration for our.
Yeah. And there are so many since I've kind of been on this interiors kick, like for the last 2 or 3 years. There's so many great contemporary artists, so many out there all over the world painting the same thing, and that is what. The internet is so great for artists. You can look at so much stuff.
You just find inspiration.
Yeah, and see what kind of motivates you or inspires you, or maybe it will give you an idea or whatever. Like
I said, I'm very drawn to that one. I like both of those.
I'll paint that scene again because there's a restaurant view that I can't wait to do. It's like really fun with big tall windows.
So when you do that one, do you do any of the work like sketches on location or like snap a picture, or just
I paint from a photo. Yeah. I mean, my choice is always to paint in person. There's so many limitations with a photograph. I mean, it's really hard, and then you end up kind of peering into the photograph and seeing things that probably aren't there. And I mean, that's okay too. I mean, but there's so much color in the shadows that you don't see, and the perspective's a little wonky. So you kind of have to, but I mean, to paint out.
But you have been in there though, which is nice versus having somebody said, I was here, paint this for me. And like, have somebody handing you a photograph of someplace you're on vacation.
That's definitely hard.
It's like, okay, I've never been to Venice, Italy. I can't paint the waterways. I don't know what they are. Like,
exactly. So true. So true. I did a commission of, it's not Nauset Beach, but it's on the National Seashore. It's a very specific beach. I'm not thinking of it. I might
Pressure.
I know. I have no memory, but the tide goes way out, like miles. And it's got a very distinctive, reflects the sky. So the sand is kind of this purpley blue color.
Yeah. You almost got like the salt flats look, where you get like that.
Yeah. So I had to Google it and, I couldn't just take the photograph. It was so specific, and I knew that meant something to them. And it was an overcast day that they had the photograph from. Oh my God, that thing! I sweat that out for like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
that was tough.
Yeah,
got through with a little help from my friends too. Like what do I do when? I remember Margaret lent me a Ken Oster video. That was helpful.
You have a few of Margaret's pieces too?
I do. I do.
I have one of Margaret's, like some milk cartons that like miniature, like those little school.
Yeah.
Milk cartons. Which is like.
No, she's done a bunch of the 30-day challenges where she sometimes makes up her own or she'll join a group or whatever. But a couple times she's done What's on My Breakfast Table. And so you get the cereal bowl and the milk carton and the honey and the, and she's got great like silverware and she has great bowls and, she's just everything's very chosen.
Yeah.
Not just in her work, but in her home too. And
It's very funny because Laura, who was just on chatting, she had a whole series of still lives where it's all just overhead shots of different types of cereal bowls.
Yeah. You should definitely check
decorative,
awesome.
tablecloths and stuff underneath, all in different just colorations and things. It was just, when you said that, I was like, oh, that's funny. So it's not that out there to have cereal bowls.
No. And it's something like, even the Rainbow Fleet or certainly World's End or like painting something multiple times over and over again over the years has so much, there's so much you can learn from that, getting that much closer to your subject, and you can continue to learn from it and that's where the like real growth comes from, painting something that you're familiar with over and over again. I got a sticker to Sandy Beach when we moved to Hingham. I shouldn't be saying this on live anywhere, but it did used to happen. Anyway, I'd be sitting there for, with my kids and they'd be down by the water or whatever. And I'd bring like a little tiny box and I would like just study the horizon, like where the water meets the sky. Like I would just paint that over and over and over again and try to see different times of the day or different colors. And that information is like, now I have that. So when I am somewhere, I can get to it a little quicker.
Yeah, the light wouldn't hit the water that way. No, the light would hit
Yeah, the horizon line thing is just infinitely interesting.
Nice. Yeah, you'll definitely have to check out. It sounds like Laura's stuff might be a nice, and I think you'd appreciate her work.
Yeah,
so
cool.
We're working on launching some artist pages. I think we're close on Laura's too, so you should be able to find that through the Frame Center. Yeah. That's another thing we're trying to like.
That's amazing because
we might have one for you in the works too.
There are a lot of artists that, for whatever reason, could really use a venue.
Well, yeah, I mean, both in some of them have, so we're not trying to be like an exclusive venue. I think what we're trying
rotating.
to do. Well, no, I mean, I want to have a catalog of artists, but it's really more like a pass through. You know what I mean? We're not trying to keep we're trying to put that up with their social media and stuff, just so that people discover new artists and find, like you talking about Laura, and maybe you forget her name, but then you could pop onto our site and, scroll through some of the featured artists and see her stuff. And, that's the one that we talked about. That's Laura's stuff. And then click through and see, a representational amount of her stuff, maybe a quick little bio and her relationship with us. And then, you click onto her stuff and off you go. You can kind of keep track of them on their, a lot of people on Instagram.
That's
and
fantastic.
See how they progress.
You're facilitating the discovery.
I think, I think that's
awesome.
And I'm sure you do a similar thing in the sense when people come in and they are, whoa, what's this? I'm not a big antique guy, but I do I recognize it as art and whatnot. And I'm sure that the dogs and people get it, all of a sudden get you ask a couple of questions and all of a sudden now you have a little bit of knowledge on that subject and it gets you that much closer to to buying it.
Well, or you just learned something that day that you didn't know before. And it it takes you down another path. Or it's.
I mean, I think that's our, I like the idea of people buying art. I mean, obviously that's helpful for us. Having original stuff, having our community like of artists and people that come in, giving them a venue to be exposed like we are with the gallery space, with the podcast. And then also, I think the artist pages, I think will be, I see it as like my, my mission now, and I want people to, find artists that they like, and being that either matchmaker or like that pass through, I think is like a...
I think it's fantastic. It totally comes across on all your platforms of social media and everything. It's fantastic. And it's creating a community of people that...
I mean, I think the community's here. I think it's almost like getting people aware of it, and then kind of like tying in like other things too, like, like buying antiques and maybe that's like somebody walks in, you say a lot of people buy their first painting because they're coming in for something, and there is that connection. Yeah. So I think it's in my head, I'm thinking 5 years down there, I think it's a great thing, and I think shining a spotlight on the art community here, and maybe trying to I'd love for like all these associations that kind of compete for the same audience to kind of come together.
Yeah.
And maybe that's our role too, is like you come here so that you can see what's on all those different platforms. I mean, we're working towards that on the website with our calendar. I think that we're in a very early stage, but I think that at some point we can kind of get that going in the right direction.
Check that out.
Be like the yellow pages of the social art area. Come here and kind of branch out to wherever you need to go.
Yeah, I love that.
Plus, if you find someone and you start looking at their work through Instagram, you'll probably get hit with the algorithm, and then you'll find 10 more people that are similar. My daughter recently was wants some, what the heck is it, preppy artwork. And, so she's been showing me a bunch of that, and that just kind of explodes. Now,
that's the 80s influence, right?
Yeah, a lot of hearts. A lot
also
of stuff,
coming back, as always.
But I mean, it's cute stuff, and it's fun watching her. And
I want to know what preppy art, what is that?
Oh, I'll show you. We'll be posting some. We're going to be redoing your room with some originals.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, you'll see it on our Instagram soon enough.
I
think the new trend, preppy art.
I think you've had on other posts. Certainly, I don't know if you've done it in this venue, but seeing artwork in people's homes.
Yep.
It's kind of like MTV Cribs. Everyone loves to look inside each other's homes.
We try to have so many people send. We're like, oh, we really love it. We'll talk. We'll have to show you pictures when they come back. We're like, yes. Send us the pictures. We want to see it in the space.
We've been trying to do something. We've done a bunch at my house. I want to go far as to tell stories behind each painting, which might be a stretch, or maybe it turns into a going in and see. Maybe it's just seeing an overview of somebody's house with a lot of art and then touching on a few. But it sounds like you have some stuff. Maybe when you're ready to show off, we'll take a field trip.
We'll see. I just moved, but I've got all my artwork up, so that was a priority. So
I think it's fun. I think it's
inspires and encourages people that if you see it, you can do it, sort of thing. And
I think people shouldn't be those first time buyers that come in. Is that kind of
it's intimidating for whatever reason. Whatever has been buying fine art, original art has been, for a select group of people, so people think, or whatever. And it's just, fortunately, not that way anymore, which means that more people are buying art, and or more art can be made.
I've had a lot of friends recently who have, they've bought their own home, they're starting a family and things like that. And they've gone from the poster framed art on their wall to actual artists that they found through Instagram or through everything. Yes. And they brought it in for me to frame, and we'd go take it and I put it up on their wall. And they're like, I
always hung real artwork in my girls' room because they ended up, I want them to be looking at something good. They're in there a lot. Yeah.
Well, you want to think differently too, right? So you don't want to be staring at the same, there's something to be said for masters and certain pieces of work, but if you're doing the same thing, thinking the same way as everybody, art's meant to be expressive. It's you're supposed to look at stuff and interpret it, and I don't know. I mean, if you're guided down that same, if you're doing the same thing as everybody else and thinking the same way as everybody else, it's where's the creativity?
Not as interesting. Yeah.
What was that piece we used to keep getting in all the time? The dog on the bed there.
Master bedroom.
Master bedroom. That's how many times did we have that come in like 1 week? It must have been like a showing or something of it that everybody went to go see, and everybody came in with it to get it framed.
Like a different variation of the dog on the bed, or literally the same
poster, just framed.
The same poster.
But we framed it like 17 different ways, so it all looked different. But it was just funny to see.
I mean, I guess there's that too, so you can make it your own by framing it your own way.
Yeah,
I don't want to like knock people.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong, certainly.
But I mean, I just think that having that original artwork or that connection is so important, and that's like one of those stories that I want to start to try to tell and like explain to people so that they get inspired. You know?
Yeah, we never want to knock anybody for going to like a convention or a showing or something and coming back with like a concert poster or something that they, that's not what we're talking about. It's more.
Although my dear friend who has a beautiful home in Boston has some stuff that I think they got at a convention, and I'm being a little snobby here. It's mass produced. It's like, come on, guys! Like you can do better.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that there's the educational piece, right? Because some people just don't. I mean, some people don't choose to. They don't care to know.
They don't. It's just not like you said. It doesn't interest them,
and that's fine. But some people, I think, they're either intimidated or they just haven't. They're not educated on it.
It's not their category.
But you can see that people. I think that's like almost a little bit safer or better than like someone that's just buying because everybody else has that one. So I might,
there's a lot of that going around too. And decorating there is too, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's a phase you go through. But
maybe that's a
certain time period in your life. You don't yet have the confidence yet. So if you do what others are doing, that will be acceptable or something. But then you mature out of that. Or some people never go through that, which is great. I mean, they're just independent thinkers.
People buy the piece to finish off a room just to put something so they don't have a blank wall. But it's up there. I don't need to replace anything after a while. It's like you put it up as a placeholder, but you never replace the placeholder.
It happens. I mean, it's hard to be critical of something you see every day because you stop seeing it.
I can't tell how many times people brought me in and it's like the Building 19 poster that they got. I'm like, Building 19 hasn't been around for God knows how long.
They did sell some good things. I've got some great stuff.
Yeah,
there. Not art, but I like rugs. I don't know.
It's okay. I'm like, you gotta. The framed plastic, it can't be replaced. We got to do something different on it, But that's funny how somebody will want to save $19 a picture they bought for that, and they'll spend $200 to put a new frame on it because it's just so part of their normal everyday life. They need it back up on their wall. Yeah, it means something to them, even though it was only $19.
There's some connection to it. Yeah.
So, well, I mean, some of the stuff. I have a couple like my kids. I mean, that can be made into like fine art, and that's like got that good story behind it too, right? And more so than just on the refrigerator for a couple of years.
Absolutely.
Like, I got one piece of my daughter's that's like, it's almost got a Rainbow Fleet type of feel to it because she, had drawn with a bunch of different.
Preppy art.
Yeah, I mean, it was her, that's why she has the love for it. But I had entered it in the show at North River. It's hung in a prominent spot in my house because I really like it. I mean, I thought she should have. I thought maybe she should have won an award, but but it's like it has like a whole story behind it, and I have the little thing still on the back from when it was entered into the. Everything was a member show or something. So she couldn't get turned down.
Yeah, I think I remember talking about that at collections committee several times of like not having because there was an age restriction on the front end. You have to be 16 and older and that sort of thing. So we had many discussions about that. But what a great process for her to go through where she made something and even just having it framed completely elevates it, puts it in a totally different place. It's on the wall, it's framed, whatever. But then the step further of entering it and hanging it with other artwork is what a great process for her to go through as a young artist.
I mean, she had a leg up on the competition to be with having the relationship with me for
little nepotism, but
but I mean, I have that one hanging and it's have that in a frame forever.
Yep. I think I have one of your daughters. Outside of the box, you had a map of Marshfield Hills where I lived at the time of my Old Main Street where I lived. And I liked you'd kind of like abstractly like painted this white onto, I don't know. I liked it.
You'll have to send me a picture.
And you're like,
I think I vaguely remember this conversation.
I did that. And I didn't really do that. My daughter did it. I was like, I still like it.
Yeah. That's yeah.
I still have it hanging. So
She actually has. She sold a couple pieces. It's funny, and I try to encourage her to draw more. She did a mermaid drawing, and she gave it to my brother, and he had it. He framed it and hung it at his place in Norwood, and he had somebody come in and had to have it, so he made a copy of it for them.
Nice.
With the artist's permission.
Yes.
I think he also did give her the proceeds of it too. But
I would hope so.
It's funny, but again, now it's like I feel like I'm almost.
You've planted the seed.
I planted the seed, but I feel like I want to push her to do more artwork, but I don't want to push her to do more.
You can't. You can't. I mean, she will, but just showing her what can happen is what you've done is great. Yeah. It's your role as parent.
But it's interesting. I'd like to see her produce more, and maybe we'll get a piece or two of hers in her preppy. Preppy work.
I might be up for buying one.
Yeah. I'll see if I can dig that one up.
I'll never forget the first painting I sold. I couldn't believe someone forked over $100 for this painting that I made. Like that like $100. That was like a fair amount of money. It was a painting of a grapefruit and a spoon.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. I mean, I put it in like a student show or something at the Marshall Library, and the North River put together, or maybe Jody put it together.
That was just when you were a student.
Oh yeah, I was still very much a student, but that was exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, did your daughter get like a little thrill out of
she was
collecting some cash?
She loves money. So. I'm sure it was well spent.
It's motivating, but it's also monetarily is kind of nice. But it's so validating when someone else forks over some money
for something I did.
Yes, for something you made. It's and I definitely find myself in this position of making paintings that I know I can sell, and so. I don't ever think that I'm going to be Picasso or somebody of that caliber that's going to I must do my own discovery and I can't be influenced by anything or whatever. It's such an honor to be able to potentially paint something that potentially someone is going to buy. It's great, and it motivates me too. I mean, I definitely do things that I don't care if anyone buys, and I love painting over other paintings, but I feel like I can show things that I'm interested in and compositions I'm interested in, and then still make them commercial enough that they sell.
Yeah.
So it's a good job.
You don't want to compromise your palettes and things like that to do a sale. So I painted a bunch using colors I know that are appropriate for the South Shore, sandy golds, light blues.
Is there anything wrong with that though?
Well, when it's different than when I normally paint, if I'm trying for myself, I feel.
Do you feel like you were lying or something? Or
I don't necessarily always vibe with it. It's not what I'm in the mood for painting. I find sometimes my pieces don't come out the way I want, and then I'm just all right, well, I'll do another one. So sometimes I'll do 4 or 5 out of a set, and I might like 1 out of that 5, and then the other ones, like you said, I'll paint over and I'll just do something else.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I mean, I think the Rainbow Fleet for me was I was so excited to paint it in the beginning, and then it just became as we started the Sweet Home Alabama, but. I got a little tired of doing it. And I wasn't really my style wasn't really developing painting the same. I didn't know how else to paint it. I mean, I tried a few different ways that were, didn't really work or whatever. Yeah. I mean, nothing's really a waste of time. You learn something every time you do something, if it fails. But at the same time, I was so grateful that I was able to sell them too. Someone wanted to buy them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a toss-up on it, because I like painting in deep colors, blacks, metallics, dark blues.
Oh, you like the dark side?
I like the dark side of things, but it doesn't always fit people's aesthetics for their homes. So when I have to go to that other side, I can do it, and sometimes they turn out really nice, but it's not where my mind is going to when I'm building.
Well, that's what Instagram is great for too. You can just throw it out there
to open up your you open up your audience.
Yeah, sometimes the one I did, the one for the Hanover days, that one turned out great, but that's also I tend to either work on 12 by 12 or somewhere in a smaller palette. That one was, I think it's 20 by 30 or something along those lines. It's more of a linear, longer profile. And so I had more surface area to work with, and I was able to bleed in a few different things like that. So it opened it up a little bit more. With darker and heavier things, I find the smaller ones work better than the lighter, smaller ones. It's just,
I can see that.
It's just, again, my own personal tastes, not and I'm sure other people have those tastes. I just have to find them.
So I feel like now, is this one the new Rainbow Fleet? The Sun
well, that was the first print.
I've seen this in a couple.
Have you?
Yeah, in a couple homes.
Nice.
That, when I'm in
Hingham.
Doing the installs, yeah.
Is that a
So
a lot of people come in?
That is like I really like to paint boats and water, and that is a scene in Nantucket, kind of like motif number 1, of Rockport or something, like the little red dinghy. It's permanently parked in the harbor. People know it. They put the Christmas tree in it, whatever, for a stroll or anything Nantucket. I mean, I'm not that shameless, but I mean, it was something I was truly interested in.
Yeah.
And I was doing a show, and I had done it the year before at St. John's Boutique. Yes, a church show. Yeah. But they get some, I couldn't believe, I thought if I had sold like 1 or 2 paintings, I'd be like, great.
Yeah.
It's the first year I sold 19 paintings.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So the second year, I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So I painted more and whatever. And I had that painting, and I thought I did an okay job with it. It was priced really nicely. And I must have sold like, 17 paintings that year, but that was not one of them. And my father was turning 75, and I was like, what do you get the guy? I mean, and he had expressed some interest in it. And so I thought, perfect, I'll give it to him.
Yeah.
So then the festival show was coming up, and I'm like, I don't have anything as usual. So I borrowed that painting from him. Yep. And, when you put the little NFS next to it, then everyone wants to buy it.
Yeah, of course.
So
Forbidden fruit.
It won a little maritime award. First of all, I got in, which was, I think, awesome. And then that's when I thought, you know what, maybe I'll make a print of it. Yeah. And then it's a more affordable price point. And that was the original size and everything.
The same size.
And it's a small painting, but it has like a lot of impact, and it can go anywhere in your home. It's a great wedding gift. And,
size is important for stuff like that.
Yeah. So some artists are completely against having their work reproduced, in print form. And that's fine. It works for me. I have one other, and that's the Rainbow Fleet, because I like to have an example of it.
Do you find that people who have bought that or the Rainbow Fleet as a print come back and
absolutely
and sold them originals down the road?
Yep, absolutely.
Like almost like a starter.
Yes, it's a great starter piece. Yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then with the selling as much as you do, like, do you have a connection to most of the people that buy the artwork? I know Laura was saying that she really enjoys that, knowing who's bought the pieces, like she could send them a note or something like that. After.
Yeah, I do like to know. Absolutely.
She kind of drew it to the comparison to knowing where your children are.
I can't believe I forgot to mention Lauren Bass in my artists that I show at my store. She has 2 prints that she's done. One of the Lauren Hall and one of North Street where the Snug is.
Yeah.
And, they were just kind of knockouts. Like they had a massive appeal.
Yeah.
So why not? And I saw quite a few of those. Christina Eckerson she just had one made of the Swan boats in Boston. And I saw it in her studio, and I'm like, you know what you should do with that? Yeah. I mean, so for $300 versus the same size and original is like $700.
Yeah.
I mean, they look pretty much the same. You can have that. And it's like you said, it's a great entry price point or not a big commitment. So if you change your mind in a few years and it's not what you want to have on your wall, then that's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. So not that it's disposable, but you can move on from it or whatever.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm sorry, Lauren, that I didn't mention her.
I should have been stronger in saying her name. I thought that Lauren was at your place, but then, she's. But everyone that's there, I think, has maybe a similar style.
Well, we all have taken Margaret's class.
That's
so color is of interest, and Margaret is as good a teacher as she is an artist. I mean, she's a really great teacher. She's very giving, and she's so. And her curiosity isn't infinite. So she's always studying something new. She's always she's always interested in learning new things. So she brings that to the class. So it's always, it's endless. So Lauren will kind of drop in and out of her class over the years, but that's where I met Lauren.
Yeah.
She does a lot of portrait work, and that's really what interests her. So sometimes one year she'll be really focused on that.
A series of it was her daughter under the water.
That was fantastic. That was great.
I knew she had the Loring Hall one, but I didn't. I guess I feel like I've seen that Snug, seen by a number of different people that are local, because that's, everyone can relate to that, right? In Hingham, that
Absolutely. It's a popular place. Yeah.
Right down the street from
yes.
you too, right?
I'm several doors down. Like when there's a football game on Saturday, I'm kind of bummed out. I won't lie because there's no parking near my store. So anyway, no, I love the Snug too. So it's a great place. But yeah, Lauren paints she sails a lot. Mm-hmm. So she's been doing quite a few water scenes for me, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. And then she's got the rest of her work is commission work. So it's nice that she can have a little venue to do some other things, and have a place to sell it. So anyway.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled that you came in. I'm sure that Scott's going to be able to put all sorts of plugs up for your website and for the antique store. And
I became very familiar with it. I'll make sure other people are too.
Yeah, I think we'll be taking a cruise back over at some point. I'm sure we'll be with our new Frame Center field trip, social media outlet.
There you go.
I love it.
I think that maybe once you get settled after the move and you have some stuff up on the wall, maybe we'll pop in for you.
Yeah.
Do a MTV crib style, showing so if people can see some more stuff at their house, because I think that's another thing. People I think being exposed to what other people like and like realizing, you don't have to be, it doesn't have to mean something to anybody else except for you.
Right.
I think that exposing people to that might help build confidence and
absolutely.
Just
that you can mix
I'm going to hang this on my wall. I've had people come in over the years and it's like, they're kind of making excuses of why they're hanging. It doesn't matter. You're hanging.
Do not need to explain.
You don't have to explain. It's not like, a lot of people's homes are, it's not like it's out for, everybody's just peering in their windows and staring at the stuff.
It's for your own
hang stuff up
enjoyment and that of your friends, or it should be for your own enjoyment.
Yeah, your own enjoyment or your own inspiration, or to capture that memory. I think that's of the vacation, or of that you were saying earlier about buying that piece of artwork to kind of
commemorate a moment in your life.
I think that's great. And I think that people need more of that. We have been wrapping up the show. I don't know if we want to say your favorite frame piece at your house, but do you mind telling us about one of your current favorites? I know from myself personally, right now I feel like the one we were discussing earlier of Maya's is my favorite, but I have a lot of favorites based on the day. We had this answered a couple different ways, but you want to tell us about one of your pieces, and then maybe you can send us a picture of it.
Oh God, it is like picking your favorite child.
Sophie's choice, yeah.
I always say that with my center of interest, but I can't choose. It's like Sophie's choice. I want 2 centers of interest, but
you can tell us about
more than one. You really just need to have one. To have a successful painting or a composition, you really should have one.
Yeah, anyway. I think a lot of people have actually. I think the ones that we've been asking. I think it's the last one is always her favorite. And, and the last piece she bought, and then some other one. People can't make up their minds, so they've told us about multiples.
But. Rita had a couple.
Yeah. I agree with that. When someone asks in the shop, what's your favorite piece you have in here? I'm like, this one that I just bought. So artwork piece. I have 2 of Colin Page's paintings. Mm-hmm. Not his big work, because I cannot afford that, but his studies, which are, I bought one 5 years ago and one 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And you guys reframed them. No offense, Colin, but I didn't love his. They just didn't work. They were great frames, so they just didn't work with my aesthetic, whatever. I put them in a similar style because I did want to honor how he saw them framed, but with a different finish, they were in floater frames, and I loved how they came out. Mm-hmm. And they're not in the same frame, but I do hang them together, and they look great together. Mm. And then you did I'm going to talk about this David Graham Baker guy again, some sketches, which I don't have a lot of. I have... this little Robert Henry one that I bought at an auction, which I just love because it's just almost like a simple line. And I love his work so much. And it just, when I look at it, it makes me happy. But I guess the David Graham Baker ones that you did in a very simple black frame. And I have a lot of gold frames in my house. I tell people all the time, it does not matter. You can mix them together. Mm-hmm. So I would say those 2, the Colin and the Davids. Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I am psyched you came in. This conversation kept going. I feel like we're going to probably have to have you come back.
If we haven't totally bored them off of their earbuds or whatever.
I think it was a great. I feel like this could go on, keep talking for ages. So, fortunately, you come into the store on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's one of my favorite topics. So it will continue.
A continued conversation for sure.
Coming up or a big event going on at the store, you can let us know. We can have you in. We'll do a little thing, and we'll.
I love the collab.
Promotional out there,
Yeah.